It was a lively weekend, and Anna, along with her husband Richard, attended a gathering organized by some friends. The atmosphere was light and cheerful, with laughter and the clinking of glasses filling the air. Anna stood in a corner, chatting casually with her friends while holding a glass of red wine. However, her eyes unknowingly drifted to Richard and her close friend Lisa, who were not far away. They seemed to be having an enjoyable conversation, with smiles that were too radiant and gestures that conveyed an unspoken connection. At first, Anna thought she was overthinking it, but a small detail made her uneasy. Lisa's hand casually rested on Richard's arm, a gesture so natural, as though it had been repeated countless times. Richard didn't pull away. Instead, he smiled gently, looking at her with a tenderness Anna had never seen before. In that moment, Anna's chest tightened, as though it had been pierced by a needle. After the gathering, Anna's doubts did not subside. Back home, the image of their intimate interaction kept replaying in her mind. She decided to check Richard's phone messages, being careful not to raise any suspicion. But there was one message that had not been deleted in time. "The night we shared was so beautiful. I hope we can always be like this." The message was from none other than Lisa. By the time Anna read this, her hands were trembling, her heartbeat pounding like thunder. Though the message was subtle, she knew enough to understand that something had already crossed the line between the two of them. She forced herself to calm down, put the phone back in its place, and tried to mask her emotions. But from that moment on, she knew nothing would ever be the same. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting content. It was late at night, and the soft light in the room was dim. Anna sat on the sofa, hugging her knees, her gaze vacant as she stared out the window. After discovering Richard and Lisa's betrayal, the shock and pain inside her overwhelmed her like a tidal wave. This was a scenario she had never imagined. A man who had once held her hand at their wedding and made vows to her had now betrayed their shared promises. The initial anger and sorrow made it almost impossible for her to breathe. But as the night deepened, Anna gradually calmed down. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to face the issue rather than let her emotions consume her. She knew she couldn't drown in anger. She had to find a way to deal with the problem. She closed her eyes and began to recall the past with Richard. From their meeting to falling in love and then to getting married, those beautiful moments they had shared seemed to play like a movie in her mind. She remembered how Richard had been by her side during difficult times, and she remembered the surprise he had prepared for her on her birthday. However, as she delved deeper into these memories, she began to notice some details she had once ignored. Their relationship had seemingly started to crack long before, but because she had been so caught up in the daily tasks of family life, she had chosen not to see it. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes as she thought about it. She had sacrificed so much for this family. She had quit her job after marriage, thrown herself wholeheartedly into taking care of the household, and time and again put aside her own dreams to support Richard's career. She had exhausted all her passion and energy. Now, looking back, she realized that she had lost her sense of direction and had become someone who lived only for others. And all of this had led to betrayal. The pain made Anna even more lucid, and she suddenly realized that staying in this relationship would only cause her to lose herself even more. She took a deep breath, stood up, and walked to the window, staring at the stars that flickered faintly in the night sky. Perhaps the truth was more complicated than she had seen, but she understood now that only by uncovering the whole truth could she truly resolve the situation. That night, for the first time, Anna felt a strange but firm strength rising within her. She was no longer the woman who silently endured everything. She was determined to find out what she was really up against. No matter how painful, no matter how dark the truth might be, she had made up her mind to uncover the full extent of the betrayal. After tossing and turning for several nights, Anna finally gathered the courage to take action. She knew she couldn't rely on mere guesses. She needed to uncover the full truth about Richard and Lisa. So she decided to start with Richard's study, a place she rarely visited, filled with files and materials he frequently used for work. One night, while Richard was asleep, Anna quietly entered the study. The room was faintly scented with tobacco, and the dim light from the desk lamp cast a warm glow on the thick stack of papers. She carefully sifted through the documents on the desk, but most of them seemed like ordinary work materials with nothing unusual. However, her attention was drawn to a locked drawer in the corner of the desk. Kneeling down, Anna gently tugged at the drawer, only to find it locked. Her heart skipped a beat, but she didn't hesitate. She turned to the toolbox and retrieved a paper clip. Though she had never done something like this before, her hands were steady in that moment. After a few tries, the lock gave way with a soft click. Inside the drawer was a small, locked safe. It wasn't large, but it felt incredibly heavy to Anna. She spent some time figuring out how to unlock it, and finally, with another satisfying click, the safe opened. Inside there was a leather-bound journal and several financial documents. Anna first picked up the journal, and her fingers trembled as she flipped open the first page. It was Richard's familiar handwriting. At first, the entries seemed mundane, documenting his daily interactions with Lisa. But as she turned the pages, the content began to become more shocking. Richard not only detailed his affair with Lisa, but he also described how they used her trust to gradually siphon money from the family accounts. Anna's eyes blurred with tears, but she forced herself to keep reading. The latter part of the journal was even more chilling. Richard and Lisa had not only been planning to steal from her, but they had also discussed forging documents and manipulating insurance policies to transfer Anna's assets to them. Some vague comments even hinted at a more sinister plan, ensuring that Anna would disappear permanently to clear the way for their new life together. Anna set the journal down and picked up the financial documents, hoping to find more evidence. Sure enough, the files contained details of multiple accounts and transactions that confirmed her suspicions. Every single document felt like a knife to her heart, but she didn't stop. Instead, she grew even calmer. All of this filled Anna's mind with both anger and fear, but it also ignited a fierce determination. She now understood that this wasn't just betrayal, it was a carefully orchestrated scheme against her. Anna closed the safe, and with a newfound resolve in her eyes, she knew what she had to do. She had to fight for herself, no matter how difficult the road ahead might be. After confirming the conspiracy between Richard and Lisa, Anna's inner turmoil gradually transformed from shock and pain into calm determination. She knew she could no longer remain silent in the face of this betrayal. She had to take action to defend everything she held dear. The next morning, Anna made a call to a lawyer recommended by a friend. The lawyer, Ethan, was a seasoned legal expert specializing in family and financial disputes. After hearing Anna's story, Ethan sympathized with her situation, but also acknowledged the complexity of the case. He advised Anna to immediately gather all written evidence, including Richard's diary, financial documents, and any other relevant records she could find. In the following days, Anna maintained a facade of calm during the day, but at night, she quietly worked to sort and categorize the evidence she had found in the hidden safe, making as many copies as possible for backup. She even began to recall and document any unusual behavior from Richard and Lisa, aiming to ensure that every detail would withstand investigation and scrutiny. On Ethan's advice, Anna submitted a formal report to the relevant authorities, initiating a financial audit and investigation process. As she watched the investigators leave with her documents, she felt a sense of reassurance. This was her first step, but she knew there was still a long way to go. At the same time, Anna began to mentally devise a bold plan. She decided to use Richard and Lisa's arrogance and confidence to trap them. She arranged for a final confrontation at her and Richard's home, inviting a few mutual friends over under the guise of a regular family gathering. On the day of the gathering, Anna pretended to be just as busy preparing food while the guests arrived one by one. She made sure both Richard and Lisa were present. As the atmosphere grew warmer, Anna quietly pulled out the material she had prepared earlier and placed them in an envelope, setting it on the center of the dinner table. Every detail was carefully planned, and Anna took a deep breath, her gaze resolute. She was ready for this moment, a public revelation where Richard and Lisa would face her retaliation. One quiet evening, Anna invited Richard and Lisa to her home, under the pretext of having a rational discussion. Her tone was calm, her expression emotionless, leading Richard and Lisa to believe that this was just another ordinary family talk. However, they had no idea that this would turn out to be a disaster that would change their lives forever. That evening, the living room lights were soft, and Anna had prepared a pot of hot tea and some snacks. The whole room looked harmonious and cozy. Richard and Lisa sat on the sofa, looking slightly cautious, but Anna's composed demeanor momentarily relaxed them. "Thank you both for coming," Anna said calmly, lifting her cup of tea. "We do have some issues that need resolving. I thought tonight would be a good opportunity for all of us to talk honestly." At first, Richard tried to respond in a light tone, but Anna interrupted him. She slowly took a stack of papers from the file beside her and placed them in front of them on the coffee table. Her eyes were sharp as blades, yet her voice remained steady. "Before we start, I'd like you both to take a look at these." Richard and Lisa's expressions shifted from confusion to sheer terror. As their gazes fell on the stack of documents, their faces turned pale. Excerpts from the diary, copies of financial records, and screenshots of text messages, every piece of evidence pointed directly to their betrayal and conspiracy. "What are these?" Richard tried to keep his composure, but his voice trembled. "These are the results of your joint efforts, aren't they?" Anna sneered, her tone laced with unyielding power. She stared directly at them, her voice low yet authoritative. "These records prove your relationship and your plan against me. Did you really think you could hide this forever?" Lisa lowered her head, panic in her eyes, while Richard started to babble, attempting to defend himself. He tried to change the subject, even throwing out some feeble lies, but Anna remained unflustered. One by one she revealed each truth, every piece of evidence crashing down on them like a hammer, dismantling their psychological defenses. When Anna read aloud from the diary about the plan to transfer assets, Lisa finally broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she begged Anna not to make the situation worse. But Anna remained resolute, calmly saying, "Your choices have already led us to this point. I'm just showing you the truth." At that moment, Richard's face lost all color. He realized that Anna not only had all of their secrets, but had also taken enough legal action to ensure they could not escape. Every word, every document was a chain they could not break free from. In the end, Richard and Lisa left Anna's house in utter defeat. As the door closed behind them, the living room returned to silence, but Anna felt an unprecedented sense of relief in her heart. She knew that this confrontation had not only restored her dignity, but also given her the chance to start anew. Afterward, Richard and Lisa's lives quickly spiraled into chaos. Legal investigations followed, and their reputations plummeted as the truth was revealed. Anna stood by the window, gazing at the lights in the night, her heart filled with unwavering faith in the future. As the investigation deepened, Richard and Lisa's conspiracy was completely exposed. The court quickly filed charges against them for financial fraud and conspiracy to seize assets. The carefully constructed facade they had built collapsed under the weight of the truth, and media exposure turned them into the subject of public ridicule. Their once glamorous life dissolved into nothing, and they lost all social support. At this point, Anna had already left behind the shadows of the past. She moved out of the old house, which was filled with memories and betrayal, and into a bright and cozy apartment. The sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, filling the room with the scent of a new life. On the walls hung her latest oil painting, a vast, tumultuous sea, as if reflecting the freedom and hope within her heart at that very moment. One morning, Anna poured herself a cup of aromatic coffee and flipped through a travel magazine. She circled several dream destinations on the map: Tuscany in Italy, Santorini in Greece, and even the Antarctic ice fields she had always longed to visit. Without the constraints of the past, she could finally plan her future as she pleased. During her travels, Anna felt a sense of relaxation she hadn't known in years. She wandered through unfamiliar cities, capturing the beauty of each place. In foreign markets, she picked out art supplies, expressing her emotions in new ways. Every brushstroke, every note she wrote, seemed to tell the story of a new beginning. One morning, standing on the edge of a cliff, overlooking the waves crashing against the rocks, Anna took a deep breath and felt an unparalleled sense of freedom. She realized that the value of life has never been about depending on anyone, but about staying true to one's own soul. Everything in the past, though painful, had become the catalyst for her transformation, and now she had taken control of her own fate and stepped confidently into a future full of infinite possibilities. The last rays of the setting sun bathed Anna's new home in warm orange light, spilling through the balcony windows into the living room. Holding a cup of tea, she stood quietly on the balcony, gazing at the bustling city below. A gentle breeze passed by, bringing in fresh air and scattering the last traces of shadow in her heart. She thought back on the journey she had taken, each moment of pain and growth, from the painful betrayal to her courageous retaliation, and now to the peace and freedom she had found. The sleepless nights, the tears shed, each of those experiences had been the starting point of her transformation. Every choice, every act of resistance had brought her closer to her true self. Anna looked down at the cup in her hand, a faint smile playing on her lips. She no longer felt regret about the past, nor was she bound by insecurity and anger. From this point forward, she would live life her own way, embracing the beauty of the world and pursuing what truly ignited her passion. In this moment, Anna realized that her future was only just beginning, and she would write her own new chapter with independence and resilience.